And today's guest is a podcaster. She's newly appointed as the Wealth and Women podcast host by the PFS, something that the Financial Planner Life Studios had the pleasure in helping with. We recorded it. We helped produce it. So today we talked to her about her journey into podcasting. Has that made an impact in her career? She is a chartered financial planner working for 75.3, and she's worked her way all the way up to the leadership team. Hopefully she's going to be a shareholder within that business. She's worked in the profession for 18 years, so she knows a thing or two about financial planning, and she knows a thing or two about being a female in the financial planning profession, which is why they set the podcast up, to use it to attract more women to the profession. So we dig deep on the episodes. We talk about some of the things that they talk about and what can be done to attract more women to the financial planning profession. I hope you enjoy the episode. Tracy, thank you so much for joining me today on the Financial Planner Life podcast. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm really well. I'm a little bit hot. I've had to turn the air conditioning off in my flat. I've got the makeshift studio still at home because we're waiting for this new one to be constructed at Hoxton Wealth's HQ, which hopefully should be nice because it overlooks the Palm. But I'm still kind of negotiating on that one at the moment. Have my name's creative, so fingers crossed I can. We're running out of space because they're hiring so bloody many people over there, which is great for the business, of course.
Well, absolutely, yeah, fantastic. It must be a very dynamic environment that you're working with.
It is. I'll tell you what I really like is I'm in the leadership team, and the leadership team is full to the brim of really talented and growth-minded individuals. So when I turn my head to the left and turn my head to the right, I'm inspired. I've got a question answered. And another thing, there isn't this kind of, you've got an idea, you're being chopped down. It's like, you've got an idea, let's thrash it out and let's push forward and see if it works or not. If it doesn't, no problem. You know, it's a real motivating environment. And for me, I like that because I have lots and lots of ideas and I like to talk and I like to challenge things. And I honestly feel
I think that's how you get the best people on board then, don't you? You've got driven, motivated people with you. And I think that's how a company moves along, doesn't it? When it's got that. I think if it doesn't have those kind of people on board and you become complacent, just sitting there plodding along, then the company just remains stagnant.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was running my recruitment company, obviously I had people in there. I had sometimes up to 25 people working for me. But I didn't have, which I felt was a team of people that really inspired me and really pushed me or to help me accountable. So when you're on your own running a business and you don't have a coach, you don't have someone to report into, and after 16 years you kind of wing it. You do it the way that you want to do it, and coming into a different environment where they've had such huge success and they've got processes and procedures and they're very process driven, it was a bit of a shock to the system for me because, I had organized madness in my life. It was just, and then all of a sudden I had to kind of align myself to their way of thinking. But within a short period of time, it brought all those insecurities to the surface within me. And I was able to really go, do you know what? Maybe I'm not the most organized person. Maybe I'm not the most process driven person. So who in this business is? And I turned to them. There's so much support in there. And it's amazing how within such a short space of time, I've improved my organization no end. And obviously a byproduct of that is I'm getting more done and I feel calm. I just feel calm.
Absolutely. I'm very much of that mindset. I have it starts from even in my home, I have a clear home, no clutter. My desk in the office is clear. My desktop on my computer is clear because then I can then focus on the job itself then. And I feel that I'm a more productive person by working that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the club now. Once I get into something, I have a tendency to get a bit obsessed. So things like organization, processes, can I save time? I've mapped everything out in my diaries. I've time blocked everything. And I'm looking at all these areas where I can be the most efficient person I can be. But I did it not only in my work arena, but I've done it in my personal life as well. Even to the point, I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm working out straight away.
Yeah.
And then between 5 and 7, I'm not allowed to use my mobile phone. I'm not allowed to do any work during that period because I'm very much the type of person who will roll over, get my phone and start working, like literally at 5 o'clock. So I totally get rid of my phone now and I go into the gym and I do my workout with my mind, as well. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about things, I'm running through things, I'm meditating in between my sets. I do little kind of affirmation prayers. I sit out on my balcony, I watch the sunrise, I have my breakfast, and it's 7 o'clock, I pick my phone up. And just that small change in my morning routine,
It's huge.
it's
Yeah.
massive. It's made me feel so much calmer.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I work that way. I always wake up at 5 o'clock, go downstairs, have a cup of tea, sit down by myself for a moment, and then I'll go to the gym, just for like a half an hour. And I feel that is my time just to prepare for the day ahead. But also, I think it's important. I feel, when you work out, you got the endorphins it releases, it's good feelings. And then you become a better person. I think as a parent and as a colleague, you become a better person. And I always say to myself, if I get the workout done in the first thing in the morning, it doesn't matter if the rest of the day is a rubbish day, it hasn't gone to plan. Well, at least I've had my workout. At least I was able to control that one thing, and that was my workout.
Absolutely, it's a win. It's a first win.
Yes,
and the
absolutely.
best is you want to roll back over and turn the alarm off and go back to sleep. But if you do it, it's the toughest win at the beginning of your day. And it does 100% work. So great, we're on the same page then. Obviously, stressful jobs. We have lots to do. We're very busy people, and we have to remain organised. And now I understand the value of it. I feel like it's the missing piece of the puzzle with me, and I'm about to supercharge. I can feel it already within a very short period of time. Yeah, I had to get outside my environment to recognise that, to come to Dubai. But happy days. So listen, the Financial Planner Live podcast is all about careers. We've met each other previously because you are on the Wealth and Women podcast. Is it Wealth and Women or Women and Wealth?
It's Wealth and Women.
It is Wealth and Women, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're on the Women and Wealth and Women podcast that was produced by the PFS, and of course filmed by the Financial Planner Life. And it was, for me, a brilliant experience to be sat there on the day recording the podcast episodes and being a fly on the wall to a podcast that was completely female-led and gave me an insight into what it's like to work in the financial planning profession from a female's perspective without a guy in there asking the questions. Because you've always been championing women in the profession, but I'm a guy and I'm talking to women, and it's kind of like I'm leading the conversation. But hearing women talk to each other on a podcast was like, to me, I sat there and I was like, oh my God, this is a completely different perspective. And it was so refreshing.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that experience. How did you find recording the podcast, getting together as women around a table and getting stuck into talking about careers within the financial planning?
Yeah, so, when the four of us got together, I just think when you speak with people in general in the same industry, you get ideas off each other, don't you? But I think the four of us, it was just getting everyone's perception on things, and which, generally our interpretation of things and how we feel about things was very similar, because we were women. It was very similar, and the positive experiences and the negative experience. So it was kind of, you felt like, well, I'm not alone in this journey. It's not just me. Everyone is, we've all experienced such things. So so for me, it was a very positive experience. And since the podcast has been launched, the response has been so positive, and we've had a lot of women and men in the industry reach out, saying, oh, we've been, this is what we would talk about in the office of the day, that we should have a platform where women are talking about their experiences in the industry, and how we can encourage one another to take that leap, and become a financial planner, rise to the top. Don't be held back by, I've got a family, maybe the job isn't accommodating for my family, maybe I should take a step back. I'm going to have to work all hours of the day. I won't, it's further from the truth. So what we wanted to do was kind of tell people our story. I'm a mother of three. I've got 3 young children. They're 10, 7 and 5 years old. And, after school, they've got a lot of activities, football, kickboxing, etc. And I'm very fortunate in the fact that I can take my children to school. I can pick them up from school. I can take them to the activities. and yet I'm also working full time, and I'm a very successful advisor. So I do feel I'm very fortunate that I can do that, and it's kind of telling people, showing people that, you know, family and being a financial advisor is possible. You know, definitely is possible.
You can manage too. Yeah, you can. You can manage family.
You can. Yeah, and it comes with organisation. You've got to be very disciplined, you know, just like what we were saying at the beginning, you know, and that's why I have a decluttered life. I kind of prioritise. I have, you know, a timetable of what's what. But I feel I feel very fortunate that I'm working in the industry. I'm doing a job where I truly feel that I can have it all. I can have a great career, and I'm there for my family as well, which is vital.
Fantastic. So, in your role at the moment, then, just give us a bit of an overview of who you're working for, what you're doing. Are you self-employed? Are you employed? What's your day-to-day like in your role?
Yeah, so I'm employed, and working towards becoming director of the company and shareholder pretty soon. So yeah, you know, my day-to-day job is very much I'm a financial planner. That's my main role. But for the firm I'm working for, there's about 45 of us, and I'm very heavily involved in a lot of the implementing processes. I'm part of various committees, so I have quite an important role in making sure that things are working smoothly within the firm as well. So I'm doing a bit of a two jobs, so to speak. No, it's not just fully of financial planning. I do have a lot of this input into how the company operates as well. And I'm very much, as an individual, I'm very much, I like my figures, I like the data. So I do work a lot on the data side of the company as well, from the financial to see, you know, profitability and, you know, productivity within the firm as well, trying to make us more productive and to help grow the business as well.
Okay. So, what are you seeing at the moment from everybody wants to be more productive. You're a very organised person. I suppose having the right processes in place and being organised is one of the, well, I'm learning that myself at the moment, is what is a super hack, isn't it? To getting more done. You feel less flustered and more organised, and you can prioritise work. But what things are you implementing that others might be able to implement, either personally or as a business?
Well, I think as a firm, technology, we're really bringing technology into the firm. And why we're doing that is it helps the client engage more with their finances, having access to their investments, having access to their back office system, so they can see what data we hold on them to make sure that it's correct. But why we do that as well, not only for the client to be engaged, but it also frees up our time as advisors, where we can, rather than focusing on, all right, tell me what assets you've got, this, that, and the other. Well, that's already been done through the technology bit. It's given us more. What we now do is we've got more time to have in-depth conversations with clients about, well, what are you trying to achieve? What is your objective? So it gives us more scope to do that. And then in turn, that helps us produce better outcomes for our customers. So I think technology has been a huge impact for us. But yeah, on an individual basis, and I think I've touched on it, it's just more the organisation. Just be very organised, learning to delegate to the right people. Sometimes you feel like, I'd rather do it myself, but sometimes you kind of go, well, you value your time, kind of going, well, could someone else do this job, do this, and free up my time so then I can concentrate on something else.
Yeah. I think the delegation thing is a massive one for me as well. The letting go of the need to actually control everything, but also being in an environment where I can delegate to other people. It's all well and good to delegate, but let's say, for example, you're self-employed and you don't have the funds in the bank to be able to hire somebody or to even outsource. It becomes quite a challenge between, do I spend money on that and have less income, or do I do it myself? And you tend to find that's where a lot of these financial planners, for instance, who run their own business, never really hit. You tend to hit a glass ceiling. They tend to hit a point where they don't seem to be earning any more because they're not scaling their business through hiring the right people into it or leading into the right people outside of it. And I've experienced that. Coming into like Hoxton Wealth for me was been amazing because I've just hired a social media manager. I've got a marketing manager next to me. I've got a content writer coming in. I've been working with this videographer and this photographer. She's doing amazing stuff. And I'm actually going to try to offer her a job as well and get her in touch. So all of a sudden I'm building these people where before I was doing everything. I was spinning every single plate. I'm wondering why I was getting really stressed out, and it's like, now, oh, wow, get the expert in, use that person. But the problem is sometimes is that the environment you're in just can't afford that level of luxury. So we do have to kind of chuck a few things out in our backpack and do it ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you have to take that risk as well. Be brave to kind of go, right, then I know this is going to cost more, but I know that by doing this, it's going to give me more freedom where I can generate more revenue. It's just having that courage, isn't it? But at the same time, you need to be confident with the team that you've got around you to get you to that point as well. You all need to be on the same page. You're all on the same journey, because it is a team effort, isn't it?
Do you get involved in any recruitment in your business? Are you involved in the hiring process?
Yeah, I have been involved. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I think me as an individual, that part I don't really enjoy. The kind of like the people management. It's not something that comes natural to me. I'll be honest with you. But yeah, I have been in interviews. It's quite a funny environment to be in, I think, because I think you have to be careful with recruitment that you're not recruiting the same person as yourself, thinking, well, I want to be, because I want a person just like me. That's very dangerous, because it's if I'm getting the same person that has the same qualities as me, what else are they bringing to the table? So I think when you are looking at recruiting people, you need to think about, well, what extra? Why do I want someone else involved? What qualities am I looking for? And going for that rather than, well, that person's like me from the same neck of the woods. I can associate myself with this person. I'll hire them. I think that's quite dangerous, because you've got quite a stale environment in that respect.
Yeah, I made that mistake many a time hiring somebody like myself. Never a good thing at all. Especially around things like the organisation, where I was a bit crap with my organisation. I'd end up hiring another creative type person. They were the same. Like running around with tickets, not getting anything done.
Well, that's the risk of it all, isn't it? So it's kind of looking for, well, what qualities am I looking? What it's kind of having like an extra arm to you, isn't it? An extra benefit to yourself and the team.
So you've been working at 75.3 for how long?
I've been with them for about 9 years now. And in the industry, I've been in the industry since I was 21. So that's 18 years. I've been a financial advisor, qualified when I was 22.
Okay.
So very, very young to be in the industry. I was fortunate in the firm that I started off with when I was part of a graduate scheme. So there was a lot of young advisors there. There was a gap. There was a lot of us in the 20s, and then there was nothing in the 30s and 40s, and then there's a lot of advisors in the 50s. So there's a big gap there. But yeah, it was a fantastic journey that I was part of. This graduate scheme. It taught me so much as an individual, but then also, the skills that I learned. And then within that firm, I learned my craft. I learned how to become a good advisor, how to ask the questions. And then I got to a point where I felt like I hit a point where I wasn't developing anymore. I didn't feel I was. I didn't feel like I wasn't learning anymore. So I felt like, right, then I need to do something about this. Even though I was at a good point, I felt like I need to take that leap and look elsewhere. And then I joined Slightly 5.3. It was a smaller firm to the firm I was with previously. But it's a smaller firm, but it was a chartered firm. And it was independent as well. So it was very different from the other firm, because they were a global firm and more restricted. They were on a restricted way. So now gone to the smaller approach. So I felt from this side, I felt like I've learned a lot more. But there's pros and cons to a big firm and a small firm. What's so good about a big firm is that they have structure, like what you said now with Hoxton. You've got processes, you've got firm processes in place, because you have to. It's how you manage everyone. Whereas a smaller firm, yes, they've got processes, but they're not so fixed. You know, they can be easy change quite quickly, which could be good for some things. It could be quite frustrating for others as well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. When you said you were getting a bit sort of frustrated in your career and you left in a British corporation and went to an IFA, smaller firm,
Yeah.
what did you work out what that frustration was?
Yeah, it was. It was. I was kind of deluded by my role as an advisor, to be honest with you. I felt like the firm that I was working for was more focused about the company rather than the client. And I kind of felt like I wasn't providing the best service to my clients. So that was one of the biggest frustrations that I've had. But then also it was I didn't feel I was learning any more from my peers, you know, and the type of advice that we were given. So I just felt like, right then, I'm 29 years old. I'm too young to kind of be complacent. I needed to push myself. I needed to challenge myself. I needed to learn more. So that's why I was like, right then, I need to go to another firm and learn off them, you know, find other peers to learn off from. So it was more the learning, the developing of myself more than anything.
Did you have, at that stage in your career then, an entrepreneurial itch? Did you think about, well, I could do this myself? You know, I could.
Many times. Yeah, many times, yeah.
And what did you do about that?
I haven't really done anything many people have said to me, have you ever thought about setting up by yourself? I think what's held me back from that is the compliancy side of it all. I've been, you know, it's been quite intimidating, and I didn't really have the courage, to be honest with you, to take that step. However, on the other side, with 75.3 is I became an asset to the business very quickly, and I felt the firm, you know, like I said, you know, I'm hoping to be director very soon, a shareholder. I've kind of gone in that way, as in becoming my own boss. So when I joined the firm, I kind of saw that as a route quite early on in the job. I thought, right, then this is the way that I could see the direction I was heading into. So which is why, you know, I stayed with 75.3 for that reason, knowing that, yeah, I could be my own boss within this firm pretty soon.
I think being an intrapreneur, they call it, as opposed to an entrepreneur, is actually a really good way to progress in your career. We don't always have to leave and set our own business up. And I think we've done ourselves a bit of an injustice, really, by kind of giving this impression, especially to like millennials, etc., Gen Z coming through, that everybody can set up a business and you can run a business if you want. You don't need to work for anybody else. And we had Terry Smith on the podcast yesterday from Funsmith, Terry Smith. And we talked about the fact that there is such value in working for somebody, and to not rush through your career, especially in the early stages, into thinking that you should run your own business, because running your own business is completely different from working within a business. And I really was like, 16 years of running my own business, and now I'm working within a business. I already know I prefer this.
Yeah.
You know, I've still got my entrepreneurial side with my financial plan of life, but I'm using that almost as my own way to promote myself. And I've also developed other products and services on it, but I'm not looking to make it some kind of global business that I'm taking over the world. I'm using it as a tool to get me in front of the right people. So whether it's in the UAE or whether it's in the UK or whether it's eventually USA where we're heading off. But taking that and putting it inside a business and actually going from self-employment, running a business, to actually being employed and being part of a leadership team and helping with it, for me, it's been huge, you know. And I think you need to be 100% sure that you have a solid business plan to go into running your own business, because it's tough.
Absolutely.
The amount of financial advice I've seen go and do it and are really struggling worries me, you know, because it's like, it's not as easy as you think.
No. And I think for myself, it goes back to what I said earlier about I don't really enjoy the management side of things, and I don't think setting up my own business would have been something I'd have been successful as. I just couldn't have done that. Absolutely not. No.
You enjoy the job more than the building a team and managing a team, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's what I enjoy. I thoroughly enjoy being a financial planner, and I can imagine being a financial planner for years and years and years. But on the same time, I do like to be involved in the more top level stuff. I do enjoy that, just because I feel, because I've been negative experiences I've been exposed to is whereby decisions have been made at the top level, whereas those people at the top have never worked at the financial advising, power planning role, and they've implemented changes and not considered the impact that has on the rest of the people. So I feel, because I've worked my way up, I did a bit of admin, then power planning, then financial planner, I feel I've got a good understanding of how we all think. So I feel I'm now at a position where when I do bring decisions, give my opinions, I feel I'm considering everyone in that respect, and as a result, any changes that we do introduce becomes more successful because we're considering everyone.
And was that the opportunity that you identified early on when you joined? And
yeah, absolutely.
So, how long did you spend in administrative power planning roles in your financial planning career?
It wasn't not long, really. So it was more part of the graduate scheme. When we were part of the graduate scheme, we had to do every role within the firm so we could appreciate the different departments. So in those days, we had our own call centre, our own appointment departments where you had to ring up the client, make the appointments. We had to work there for a few weeks. We had to do the admin side as well, submitting application forms, just so we knew what information the receiving provider needs and also what the administrator needs before they could submit a case. And then from the power planning role, I did that for about 8 months. That just, so we appreciated, the report, the writing, the research that we have to do. Also, the questions that power planners are constantly having to ask the advisor, well, where's this information? Where's that? Where's this information? So then when we then become advisors, hopefully we've answered those questions before the power planner gets to us. Power planning was the main role I did, but then the other departments, a couple of weeks here and there, just to appreciate what we were doing.
Fantastic. Yeah. Let's go back to your podcast then, because you've had about 5 episodes of that. And I mean, the first podcast was myths about financial planners, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Planners. What's your top myth then about financial planners?
The top myth about financial planning, I think there's a couple, I think. One is that it's a sales environment. I think that's what a lot of clients and advisors think it might be a more of a sales job. That's absolutely not the case. I think what's happened is years and years ago, yes, it was more of a salesy role, but the industry has moved on from that. It's completely different. It's about helping customers achieve their goals. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to achieve. So I think that's one of the biggest myths with being a financial planner. And I think another one that we touched on that is a job more suited for men more than anything. And I think the statistic is, only 16% of financial advisors in the UK are female. And it's a statistic I believe in, because it's what I see on a daily basis. When I go to conferences and sitting down with financial advisors, in that room is mainly men. So I don't know why that is, why there's less women choosing to go into the job. It could be that a woman might think that it is salesy and maybe that's not something that they want to be involved in. Maybe they think it's because it's a job that, like I said, you work all hours, of the day. Again, it's not. It's actually a job whereby you control your diary. I control my diary. I'll decide what time I want my first meeting of the day. I'll decide when my last meeting of the day is. I choose when to turn my emails off and when to turn them on. You've got complete control of your diary. But generally that happens more when you're more established in the industry. It doesn't happen overnight, of course. I think they're the two myths I feel that's associated with being a financial planner.
Okay, so let's just look at it then. Let's get honest, because you've been in the financial planning profession for quite some time. I guess you studied, you went through the journey at a very young age, and you didn't have children, for example. Okay.
Yeah.
What about somebody who's coming into the profession now and is looking to get stuck in and start, but they have children? They have children now, and they're women, right? So we're talking about trying to attract more women. Do you think, what is the best route for somebody coming in? They've got a family, they've got children, and they want to become a financial planner. Do you think there's a barrier to entry in attracting those types of women into the profession, and what can we do about it, if there is?
I don't think there is a barrier, to be honest with you. I think there's a perception that there is a barrier, more than anything. I think it's. I don't know. I don't know what this barrier could be. I think we have to study a lot as advisors. We've got a lot of exams that we need to sit, and maybe women think that they haven't got the capacity, they haven't got the time to study after you've worked all day, the kids have gone to bed, and then you've got to study. So maybe in that scenario, do employers offer a study break during the week? Do they offer that sort of support for them? But yeah, I think there's just this perception that there is a barrier, but there isn't. I think I think one personal bad experience that I've had, and I mentioned it in the podcast as well, is when I entered the industry where I didn't have a child, and then I was pregnant with my first daughter. And it was at a point at my career where I was at a really high level. I was really successful. I'd gained a lot of momentum. But then when I came back from maternity, all my client base had been taken off me. So I had to start from scratch as an advisor. So I think if other women see this, then that can put them off joining the industry.
What can be done, though, to encourage more women into the profession? Because you cover that in episode 2, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's more the how do we encourage them? I think it's more the things like this, talking, discussions, talking about our experiences into the industry, positive and negative. Women telling their stories, right? And this was our journey. This is how we got there. And I think it helps people identify themselves with other people and kind of going, well, I can see myself in that. I think, and I think a big perception that we have, a big perception with being a financial planner, is that you have to come from a certain background, from a certain place. Where I'm from Anglesey in North Wales. I didn't even know what a financial planner was. And I don't think many of my friends even knew what a financial planner was. And the reason why that was is because we were from, my parents never had a financial advisor, their parents never had a financial advisor. It was just not an industry where in our neck of the woods. So I think it's kind of, you have to ask the question, well, why that is, and is it because advisors aren't reaching out to a further field? So it's kind of that communication, kind of going, right then, if you do live on Anglesey or wherever it is, this is a job that you could do. You could be suited for this job. So it's kind of that promotion, I think, of what, I think it goes back to that recruitment question, being careful that you don't recruit the same people. You want to be recruiting for the qualities, and those qualities in people can be nationwide. It's not, if you want to attract a certain kind of clientele from a certain area, then usually it benefits hiring an advisor from that area as well, because they can gauge with them a lot more efficiently. Sorry.
I think with the podcast that you've done, I think that's a huge tool for more people in the profession, without a shadow of a doubt. Because I get a huge amount of inbound messages from people saying, your podcast has inspired me to get into the financial planning profession and to take a run at the SJP Academy or something like that, or to reach out to a local firm and they've taken me on as an administrator, or someone's taken me on as a trainee advisor. I get success story after success story. So it's these types of ways to communicate with people where they can sit and actually listen to the reality of what it's like
Yes,
working in the profession and the challenges and all those types of things. It really turns somebody onto it in a different way. So I think your
absolutely.
podcast now and the valuable piece of content that it's providing with listeners is vitally important. And again, it goes back to women want to hear women talking about it as well, not just hearing men talking about it.
Yeah,
Women are different. Women will communicate with each other different to, say, a woman and a guy in a room, and vice
yeah,
versa. Guys will talk differently.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
just how it is. So I do think
yeah,
what you're doing on that front is really, really powerful as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, and I think when I left university, I remember, as I was finishing university, I remember the university handing me over a book to kind of go and hear the top 100 employers, and they were all accountancy based, because I did an accounting or finance degree. There was no mention of you could actually, with this, if you want, you could be a financial planner. There was no mention of the sort. So I think promoting the industry has to come from schools as well. That is a career path that you could take. And I think it's an industry that's completely overlooked. People know what a solicitor is, they know what an accountant is, but they don't actually know what a financial planner is. So I think it's so important that we pass on that message and demonstrate what we do.
No,
Yeah.
100% agree. Let's just move into sort of you are a financial planner now, really at the top of your game, right? You've been doing it for 8 years. You are chartered. You're working for a chartered practice, and you're on your way to becoming a director. What advice would you give to anybody then who's aspiring to get ahead in their career and to get to really the top of what they can do within financial planning?
What advice did I give? I think the biggest advice I'd give is don't give up. You do have good days, you do have bad days, but don't let the bad days determine how you're going to continue with this career. It hasn't been all hunky-dories. I remember when I started in the career, the advisor that was mentoring me just explained, look, the journey is up and down being an advisor, especially in the early days. But then it becomes less wavelength. It becomes more of a stable job. So yeah, it's don't give up. And you can easily be a successful advisor, easily, just by not shying away. You are put out your comfort zone quite often. Being a job, you have to speak to people that maybe people that you've never a type of people that you've never spoken to before. You do a lot of you learn a lot of skills, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there to do that as well. So wanting to learn and improve yourself, and keep going, you'll easily become successful in any job that you do, not just advising, but just don't give up. If you have self-belief that you are the best person for this job or for the job, then just keep at it.
Do you think being chartered matters?
It's not everything, but I think it helps. I think it helps from myself more on a technical basis. I think it does help. But then I think for a networking, working with solicitors and accountants, other professionals, they generally, I've seen that they do prefer to work with a chartered firm. And I think the reason is, well, especially if they're a chartered firm, they like to see that they're referring their customers to a chartered financial advising firm. But it's just more the capability more than anything. I think solicitors and accountants aren't going to refer their clients to an advisor that they don't feel is capable. So I think when you've got the chartered status, that obviously demonstrates that you've got a level of capability that they'd expect.
Okay. Going on and being a host of a podcast, right? It's quite nerve-wracking to think you've got to sit in front of cameras and start talking about things for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Were you a little bit nervous about it?
No, I wasn't actually, and I think I wasn't nervous because I knew it was just a conversation with four women. We were literally just having a chat. We were we were very open and honest about everything. We weren't trying to be someone that we're not, and that was something that we really wanted to show on the podcast. So no, I wasn't nervous. I was more excited more than anything, because it was something I've never done before, and I saw it as a new challenge. It was a new opportunity. So yeah, no, I went in there very excited, to be honest with you, and the response has been fantastic. It really, truly has been fantastic, and we have been asked to do another podcast, a live event at the PFS National Conference in November. So we've got that to look forward to. But hopefully it'd be great if we can continue with the podcast and keep that conversation going, and maybe bring on more women on board as a guest, so they can tell us about their journey. And I think it's a great platform, it's a great network for women to just tell them about their journey, their experiences in industry, and then with the objective of encouraging more women into the profession.
Fantastic. I think, podcasting for me has done me the world of good. Like, I remember I went on a podcast called Recruitment Roller Coaster. It was all about business owners in recruitment. I remember being a little bit nervous going on there, having to tell my story. But at the end of it, it just made complete sense to me that this was a brilliant way to get a story out of somebody, right?
Absolutely.
And a story that needs to be told. 4 years ago, there was nobody telling the story of what it's like to work within the financial planning profession. 4 years later, I've got 220 episodes out there, and I'm inspiring others to bring their podcasts out, and I'm producing them. So for me, it is a journey. It is an opportunity to step outside your comfort zone and to learn. It does do something. It does open up opportunity. You yourself now doing a podcast, putting yourself out there, gives you the confidence to get on other people's podcasts, which I definitely think you should do. Just start looking around, start thinking, whose podcasts can I go on to where I can talk about my services that I can offer to their listeners. So if you're looking around and you're seeing there's somebody, top accountant or something, or somebody that's talking to women, right? Podcasts for women. Can you go on there and can you talk about financial planning to women, to their audience, and then use that to promote yourself and your services as a financial planner? Because it becomes a really awesome platform to actually build new client relationships. I'm bringing one out soon called Expat Life, and Expat Life is all about interviewing people who have businesses that help expats. So I've got a guy at the moment, he's got a mobility company in France, and he moves people from the USA to France. He's like one of the only people to do it, because it's a really, really tricky thing to do. But because he does that, he's talking to Americans moving into France. As a business, we've got international licenses. So I'm able to pick up international clients, financial, Americans with like 2 to 4 million quid, right? Money in their 401ks that they could roll over into an IRA, and I'm getting introduced business. But what we're doing is creating content together. So if I do that content creation with him through podcasts or through YouTube channels, we're only going to build a really strong partnership. And for me, that's the next big thing, right? No one's really doing that. No one's building a podcast designed to develop those relationships that are going to bring clients in. The profession had a problem with trying to attract talent. I feel like I'm doing a good job of contributing to fixing that problem. The next one for me is most financial planning firms struggle to find clients. Really, a lot of financial advisors that struggle with it. And I'm thinking, how can I fix that? How can I fix that? So I'm having to go with this Expat Life. And I'm just saying for you, really, just go and just think to yourself, now I've done it. Now I've got that experience. I've got that confidence. How can I get onto 10 podcasts that all have 10,000 plus listeners a month? And all of a sudden, you're out there. Because they also put your name on it. It goes out on YouTube. It goes out on audio. So when someone searches for something like financial planner and you've got a unique selling point, or it's your name, they're going to find you and they're going to go, oh, I trust her because she is on multiple podcasts talking about being a financial planner. So it's a really, really strong marketing. And 55% of people that listen to podcasts will buy the product or service that the person is talking about. So
and I think it's really what's great about doing something like this as well is it gets that conversation going with like with other people, and it's kind of sharing that knowledge with other people, and it's only going to benefit the industry. We're not keeping it all in, it's not, people want to know, how have you got to where you are, and it's revealing that secret, isn't it? And it's only going to, it's only a positive. I can only see it as a positive. It's a really good way of getting people to kind of be inspired, whether that's in their career or or thinking of joining the industry. But then I think it also changes that narrative of what the perception is of the industry as well.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed recording the podcast through the Financial Planner Live studios. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you all, and we're going to get each and every one of you on the podcast. You've been the first to get in. So it's great to hear your stories, and it's great to hear you getting out there on the podcast, doing what you're doing. And I hope it continues. And good luck with that live event. You're beating me to it. I've got a live event coming out in January, but you guys are beating me to it. So it just
There you
shows
go. There's a demand. There's a demand.
You are in demand.
The women are in demand, finally.
I was going to say the podcast is running scared. Four guys. I've got 4 women. So well done. Fair play to you. Really looking forward to seeing some more content.
Thank you very much. Thank you.